let's talk about the Lavon affair. Lavon affair. So this is named after an Israeli defense minister. Okay, and he had to resign, and this caused a scandal inside of Israel because someone had launched Operation Susanna, and no one would take responsibility for it, right? And once again, this gets very weird because at first the Israelis are all denying it. The prime minister says it wasn't me, and then the defense minister says I didn't do it either. And then mysteriously, 60 years later, Israel is honoring the agents who carried out this attack. Why would you honor agents that you have nothing to do with? So let's look at Operation Susanna, or the Lavon affair. This is in 1954. Keep in mind, this is very, very shortly after Nasser, right? Probably the most famous Arab president in history, right? Who was a strong supporter of the Palestinian cause. He was the most popular president, not just in Egypt, but as I said, the entire Arab world. When he died, you had millions, literally millions of people in the streets. Millions. Staunch supporter of Pan-Arabism. So when he takes power, he opposes Zionism. The Israelis hate him. So the Israelis send a sleeper cell, or rather activate a sleeper cell, Mossad agents who are inside Egypt, to start carrying out attacks. And these are false flag attacks. So they are meant to make the Egyptian government look bad, so that there's a rift between Egypt and the United States and Britain. Or blame it on the Muslim Brotherhood, blame it on the Egyptian communists, blame it on Nasser. It doesn't matter. But make it look like it's not the Israelis. So who do you think they attacked? The Israelis, on July 2nd in 1954, blew up the Alexandria post office in Egypt. Then on July 14th, they blew up 2 U.S. consular libraries. So again, these are official, U.S. government buildings, right? Or rather, projects and buildings. So this is one library in Cairo, and the other one is in Alexandria. Then on July 23rd, they blew up 2 cinemas, a railway station, and a central post office in Cairo. The idea here was also, to blow up British-owned and American-owned buildings. One of them being an MGM cinema. And so while this was happening, the Egyptians started to understand what was happening, and they wrapped up the entire cell. And then they put all of the 11 Israeli agents on trial in public, and they confessed to everything, right? Philip Nathanson was literally, caught on the way to a cinema where he was about to blow up. The bomb actually exploded in his pocket. And while he was on the way to blow it up, there was a fire truck already waiting outside the cinema to put out, the eventual fire from his terrorist attack. So the man who ran the cell was named John Darling. That's a fake name, right? He was a Mossad agent. And so, as I said, this was a sleeper cell made up of Egyptian Jews. And what the Israelis were doing is very, very bad, because not only were they trying to blow up American and British establishments and kill, while doing is potentially kill not just Egyptians, but also, foreigners, whether they're British or American. They like to claim, well, it was a safe terrorist attack because they planted these bombs at night. And I just told you, one of the Mossad agents on the way to planting the thing blew himself up. How do you know that he wouldn't have maybe hurt somebody else? You don't. So, this idea that, well, Israel never does dangerous terrorist attacks. It's always, they will call the hotel before it happens, if it's the King David Hotel, or they'll warn the Americans beforehand or some crap, No, this is rubbish. So what they did here is they exploited the Egyptian Jewish community, right? So what the Israelis will say is that, the Arab governments kicked out all the Jews. It's a complete lie. Completely made up. Israel did this on purpose in Iraq, for example, in 1950, 1951. Israel blew up synagogues, so Jewish temples. Let me repeat that. Israel sent Mossad agents to blow up Jewish synagogues inside Iraq so that Jews, Iraqi Jews who are living there would become, scared and just leave and pack up and go live in Israel. And now, just, going back to the Lavon affair, so in 1954, in Egypt, there are 50,000 Jews who live in Egypt at this point. 50,000 Jews. Where do you think they all are now? They're in Israel. So, one way or another, this was going to be a win-win for Israel. Either they cause a rift between Egypt and the United States and Britain, and, they make it look like Nasser is an incapable leader. He can't keep foreigners safe. He can't keep his own people safe. He's too, incompetent to take control of the Suez Canal. That's 2 years later, remember? So this is a big, big issue at the time. Or they get Jews so scared that they just emigrate and come live in Israel. Now, why do you think Israel wants this policy? Because Israelis are a minority. Israelis are a minority who rule over a majority. There are more Palestinians in Palestine than Israelis. Go figure, because this is Palestine. So, a bunch of European Jews who are coming here are obviously going to be a minority. Now, the thing is, in order to legitimize Israel as a country, it's not enough. It's not enough to become a UN member state. Israel needs to increase the population. Israel wants to market itself and portray itself as the Jewish state. You always hear this phrase, the Jewish state. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, because if you listen to the Israeli propaganda, the Hasbara, they would have you believe that before the 1890s, before Zionism was invented, there were no Jews, which is ridiculous because you've had Jews for thousands of years. But they make it seem like Zionism and Judaism are one and the same when they're clearly not. One is a religion, the other one's a political ideology that was just recently invented in Europe. So this worked out very well for the Israelis because, they, despite getting caught, as I said, 50,000 Jews were put at risk, and then they felt, scared because now the Egyptian government had rolled up a sleeper cell, a Mossad sleeper cell. And once again, going back to my original point, Israel recruited and used Egyptian Jews to carry out these attacks. It used its own community. This put 50,000 Jews in Egypt at risk, and they fled and increased the Israeli population. And they did the same thing in Iraq. Now, in Iraq, when we talk about these synagogue bombings in 1950, 1951, one of those bombings, yes, there's more than one. One of those bombings, it's not clear whether it was Mossad or not. The other bombings were definitely Mossad. Mossad is Israel's intelligence service, right? They were absolutely Mossad. And the fact that Israel is ready to blow up Jewish temples, I mean, this is disgusting. I think it tells you everything you need to know, right? It's like, at all costs, they'll do whatever it takes. Israel doesn't care about its own people. It claims to be the Jewish state, and clearly it uses Jews in other countries to carry out its political goals. It blows up Jewish temples in Jewish synagogues in other countries to achieve its goals. Israel doesn't care about Jews. Israel hijacks Judaism to use it as a political vehicle for Zionism. Israel doesn't care about its allies. The UK, shamefully, the UK helped Israel to become, the colony that it is today. The Balfour Declaration of 1917, with the UK Foreign Secretary promising a Jewish state in Palestine. Who is our Foreign Secretary to promise a state anywhere for anyone? Do I need to pick up the globe again and remind you that, Palestine is down here, okay, and the UK is up here? What the hell do these two things have to do with each other? Colonialism. So then, not only that, but in 1946 and 47 and 48, with the King David Hotel bombing and this threat of Zionist terrorism in London and across the UK, the United Kingdom and Whitehall, they just give up this whole thing to the United Nations and dump it. And they're like, screw it. Let them take over, let them get what they want. And we're in 2023, and this whole issue has still not been resolved. Palestinians, are still living under colonialism. It just switched from Turkish to British to Jewish, or rather European Zionism. Yep. That's it. So you've had 500 years of occupation in the Middle East, Ottoman, British, and French, and now Israeli and American.